Okay, in the video we watched, some people come in and make a pitch for their product, trying to raise funds to help their business. And the way that equity works is whatever percentage that they offer, that rate, that percentage rate, in combination with the amount of money that they're paying, determines the valuation of the company. And so, let's look at, and it's going to look something like this. The investment, the dollars invested divided by the value of the actual company will be equal to whatever percentage they're getting over 100%. So, they came in and they asked for 15% equity for $300,000. And so what we're looking for is the amount of money that will result in a 15% equity if we paid $300,000 for it. So when I cross multiply 100,000 times 100 times 300,000 and divide it by 15, I end up with a valuation of $2 million. So they came in trying to raise money as though their company was worth $2 million. Mr. Wonderful countered, saying that he would give them 30% for 300. He wanted 30% for $300,000, which means that the equity, the value of the company with 30% equity would only be $1 million. So if nothing changed, but the equity he would get doubled, so he gets twice as much for the same amount of money, that means that he's saying the company is only worth half as much. So let's say that they made this deal and the next day they sold the company for $1 million. Mr. Wonderful would get his $300,000 and the young ladies would keep $700,000, which would be the remainder of the $1 million. So that's how the equity works. His 30% plus their 70% should equal $1 million of valuation. Then Lori came in and she offered 40% for $300,000, which means that she's valuing the company at $750,000. And they countered with 20% at $300,000, which means now they're trying to say that it's worth $1.5 million, which makes sense because between 15 and 30 is 20, and that would be right between the two valuations. Between 15 and 30 is 20, and that'd be right between the two valuations that they're talking about. And of course, they end up settling on the $1 million valuation. So that's what we're going to be doing on this packet that you just received. We're going to be looking at purchasing equity and valuation to create, investment at a certain valuation to create equity. So here we have Evelyn. She's been offered $15,000 by a potential investor. That's the investment. The value of her business has been appraised at $120,000. That's the value. Evelyn will not take the offer if she gives up more than 12% of her business. Use a proportion to help her decide. So we don't know the equity. We know the investment. We know the value of the company. But what we don't know is what percentage of the company $15,000 buys. So we're looking at for the percentage out of 100. And when we cross multiply and divide, we find that he is offering her 12.5%. And she specifically says she will not take the offer if she gives up more than 12% of her business. So she wants to keep 88%, and 12.5 would take her below that mark. At this mark, at the 12%, if we want to know what 12% of her company would be worth, then we're looking at how much she would take, what's the most amount of money she would sell, like most amount of her company she would sell. She would sell 12%, which would represent, if we cross multiply and divide, $14,400. So that's $600 that will remain at $15,000 is more than she's willing to give up. So the valuation that she has set of $120,000, she only wants to give up 12%, which means that at most someone could invest $14,400 in her company. So you'll have 5 more equity type problems to go through. You're either going to be given an investment, a value, equity. You'll be given 2 out of these 3, and you'll have to figure out the valuation. 100% is always going to be there, but they're going to change these 3 pieces. All right, this will be due on Friday. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send me an email.